All right, well, let's go ahead and start. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar series. I'm Dr. Keith Brownwell with Jamesway, and our topic today is a very exciting topic. I was at a meeting with one of our speakers about a month ago, or maybe a little bit longer, and heard him give the presentation. I thought that's perfect for this group that we have here, so I'm looking forward to it. We will offer this in both English and Spanish. Down on the bottom of your screen, there should be a little box with an option for you to go into the translation thing. And I don't see that, Caroline. Is that on yours?
Yes,
The translate. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Caroline, if you will go ahead and share that with everybody, and then I'll finish up introductions.
Ok. Buenos días o buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a nuestro webinar. Bueno, el día de hoy tenemos un tema bastante interesante. Recuerden que, como siempre, vamos a tener la opción de hacer preguntas en el botón de la parte de abajo de Q y A. Y también vamos a tener la interpretación en español, oprimiendo el símbolo del globito o una bola en la parte de abajo que dice Interpretation.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm always grateful to have Carolina here with us to balance this side of the Spanish interpretation of this. So anyway, our topic today is it's on In-Ovo sexing. Our two speakers, I'm going to give a very brief introduction of our speakers and then let them introduce themselves. Jennifer Foles, right? Foles. She's with Orbem, and it's kind of the working arm behind the sexing, the AR part in the sexing program. I'll let her explain a little bit more about that when she does the introduction for herself. And then Johan Vermeulen. Is that close enough?
Yes,
I saw him give this talk a little while ago, and he will also be presenting to us. He's got different exposure in the industry, doing various different things, and what he's doing now is very important to the industry, and he can introduce himself a little bit more when we get to that point. If you have questions during the presentation, there's a Q&A box down at the bottom. You can go ahead and type your questions in at the end of the presentation, then we'll have a discussion. We'll entertain as many of those questions as we can. If we don't get to yours for one reason or another, then we'll have the opportunity later to respond directly to you by email. So don't worry, we should be able to get to your questions that you have. Unless you signed up as anonymous, then we can't get back with you, of course. Also, the other question we have, a lot of people want to know if they're going to be able to see this later. Yes, you will get an email probably tomorrow that will have a link to the recorded version of this presentation. You can also get a PDF of the presentation. So everybody that registers will get that and be able to see this at a later time. We have a lot of people that do watch this at a later time. And if you do get that link and go to it, check out our other topics in our webinar series. We've got over 100 discussions and webinar presentations in there on all different topics. So should be able to touch whatever we want. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Jennifer start off. I'll let her share her screen. I'll let her start and give a little introduction of herself. And then Johan can do the same when he jumps in. So it'll be kind of a dual presentation here. And we'll do the questions with both of them together. So Jennifer, if you'll go share your screen and we'll move forward. Thank you for everybody for being here.
Sounds great. Thank you for the introduction, Keith. Can I just quickly double check? Can you see the slides that I just shared?
Yep.
Perfect. I think Johan's going to start.
Yeah, I will do a short introduction. First of all, thank you, Keith, and also Sydney, and also Dennis came from Jamesway Chickmaster. We met each other indeed a few weeks ago before the summer holiday started, and we had a good meeting there, and indeed asked to give a presentation today about In-Ovo sexing, what's happening in the world, and also with our partner Orbem with Jennifer Foles. I'm Johan Vermeulen, raised and born on a poultry farm, always worked around in agriculture, working now already for 18 years for Vencomatic Group, did a lot of different job titles within the group, R&D, product management, build up concepts like Rondale, Patio, work globally, a lot also in the eastern part of Europe, Asia, Middle East, and now also active in the United States. So that's exciting. Was also 6 years responsible for our print company, where we develop all the egg handling for hatcheries and on farm, part of the board, and now responsible for the collaboration with Orbem as a strategic business development manager. So a lot of different things, but still in this, I would say, great sector related agriculture and poultry. So thank you for the invite, and hopefully we can give you a good update what's happening, and you have a lot of challenging questions. Thank you. Jenny.
Thank you, Johan. Thank you for dialing in and for being interested in this topic. My name is Jennifer, and I am working for Orbem for 3.5 years by now. My background is not in poultry or in agriculture. My background is in chemical engineering. I've been then working in an automotive industry for a couple of years. And when I heard about Orbem and the technology, we work with MRI technology that people usually know from hospitals. But also when I heard about the applications of that technology in the poultry industry and the challenges that we can solve with it, I was really amazed and decided to join the company. The headquarters of Orbem are in Munich. That's where I started as well. It's also my hometown. And at the beginning of this year, there was an opportunity to relocate to the US. We are bringing our innovations for the poultry industry now also to the US market. And I jumped on that train. Since the beginning of the year, I'm living in the States, and I'm really happy to see that there's so many registrations around this topic. I hope by the end of this presentation, I have convinced you that this is not only a technological breakthrough that Orbem has managed to develop together with Vencomatic for the poultry industry, but that it's really a fundamental shift in how we make the poultry industry more efficient and more sustainable. I'm going to start with a bit more details about Orbem as a company. Like I said, we are based in Munich. We now have a second office in Houston, Texas as well. We are an AI company. AI in this context, not talking about avian influenza, but artificial intelligence. Everyone is talking about it. We are putting it into applications where they can add real impact. And we'll get to that a bit later. Our company exists since 2019. By now we have operations in Europe and in North America. We're more than 170 people. You can see there on the picture to the right, our great diverse team coming from more than 40 different nationalities. So you can imagine it's always fun to come to work and learn about different cultures and the background of different people. And by now we have scanned more than 150 million eggs for In-Ovo sexing, which we will hear more about a bit later in the presentation.
Thank you. Then I will introduce Vencomatic Group. I think for a lot of attendees today, a familiar company. Vencomatic Group is, I would say, also raised and born from the agriculture poultry sector, always dedicated to poultry. It's a company existing now around 40 years, a little bit more than 40 years, and it's really an entrepreneur, innovative company. So we always have focused on animal welfare and sustainability. So the goal that we do as Vencomatic Group, now over more than 800 colleagues worldwide, is we always try to focus on bringing science back to products into the market. And what we do in general is, what we are unique in the market is we are always focused on the egg weight. So it's not only the egg, it's not only the breeders or the layers or the broilers. We try to deliver all the equipment for the complete poultry sector on farm and at the starting point of the hatchery, so the hatchery intake. So we are active in breeders, in broilers, in layers, in ducks and turkeys, and especially where we had a starting name was in the breeder sector. So we developed the breeder nest, have a big market share in the world, but also with aviaries. So always we are trying to challenge ourselves to bring innovation into the market and products, but always based on science. So we do a lot of studies with PhD, with deep diving in the behavior of the chickens. We do that with about 130 companies now over the world. These are our distributors, and they provide our products locally to our customers worldwide. Why? We want to have people close to the customer, that we can provide dedicated service and also speak the language of the customers and understand the culture. That's what we are as Vencomatic Group. You can find much more, of course, on the internet. Feel free to contact us, of course, and I can tell you more. Maybe the next slide, Jennifer, related the journey we had together with Orbem. That started about 3.5 years ago. There I met at a first meeting with Pedro Gomez. Pedro Gomez, he's coming from Mexico. He's one of the co-founders of Orbem. And we had a first meeting to get in touch with each other. And they came with a great idea. They said we have something, a unique system to do In-Ovo section. We can look inside the egg, but it is also non-invasive. And we do it with MRIs. Jennifer will tell a lot more about it. And that was really that the puzzles fit together, because the strategy already 15 years ago, as Vencomatic Group, our owner made a note, and he always had the idea, we have to do something with In-Ovo section. For the layer industry, that would be a game changer on animal welfare and on sustainability. But one of the hard goals was that we work together with a non-invasive technology. That was always the thing that we said, we have to protect the eggshell. The eggshell, as you know, as specialists in hatcheries, in our opinion, that's the most strongest part of protecting the embryo. So when the story was told about Pedro, that they can do it with MRI, that was a great step. You can still hear me, yeah?
Yes.
Hello?
Now we've lost Johan.
Yep. We could hear you when you were talking. Can't hear you now right this minute.
Maybe we'll give him a second to reconnect and I can try to continue.
Yeah.
So in May 2022, we decided that the two companies, Vencomatic and Orbem, can work together really well. Our company missions are well aligned, and we decided to enter a strategic partnership. We're working exclusively with each other on bringing the Genus Focus, our solution for In-Ovo sexing, to the market. In October, we already had the first installation of the Genus Focus in a commercial layer hatchery. That was in France. And in January 2023, the production started. And like I mentioned earlier, by now, we have scanned more than 150 million eggs for In-Ovo sexing. And we are installed in 9 hatcheries, of course, currently expanding. All right. I really hope Johan is coming back, but I'll just continue until he pops up again. So regarding our agenda for this webinar, the biggest part of the presentation that we prepared is going to be about where we are today. What is the problem behind the male chick culling, and what are the different solutions? After that, we will dive into our solution, just a brief section, and the last part is going to be really interesting because it's thinking about now where In-Ovo sexing is becoming more common and being implemented in hatcheries. How about redefining what a hatchery actually is? So what is the hatchery of the future? Okay, starting with the problem. Of course, layers have a big problem, or actually only the male layers have a big problem, because they cannot lay any eggs. And that ultimately means that they don't add any value for the production of eggs, which means the common industry practice around the globe is to hatch all the chicks that are developing, separate them manually after hatching into male and female, and cull all the male chicks on the first day of their life. I think we can all agree that nobody wants to cull billions of baby chicks per year. So there are some alternatives, and the first alternative that's listed here is rearing the hatched males. You could just separate females from males, use the females for egg production and rear the males for meat production. However, they don't put on a lot of weight, and there have been studies that have shown that the feed conversion is so bad that from a sustainability perspective, it doesn't make sense. In some countries, there might not even be enough space to grow enough feed to rear all of these males for meat production. A second option is using dual breed birds, which are basically birds that are somewhere in between a layer and a broiler bird. The females do lay eggs and the males put on some more muscles. However, when we think about the global mass market, the efficiency of these birds is not as high as having separate breeds for layers and for broilers. The last option, and that's of course why we're all here today, is to detect the sex before the chicks are born, before they are hatched. And over the last decade, there has been several technologies popping up in the market. They become more mature, and by now it's fair to say that there's a big portfolio of technologies that can solve this problem with the so-called In-Ovo sexing. And we will have an overview of the different solutions a bit later in the presentation. I did run through this slide in my on the last one already. Sorry, I'm kind of winging this. This is Johan's part.
I am back, I think, Jenny. If I can help you.
There
Sorry,
you
there
are.
was sorry, technology failed at my side. Sorry, all attendees. So I'm lovely to help you back. Can you help me on the slide, Jenny? Which
We're
one
on
we are?
the slide. Drawbacks of other alternatives to male chick culling.
Yes, that is indeed. So we have 3 solutions into the market, and what I told you about the collaboration with Orbem, we started the partnership together, and we believed in that way of approach. So the In-Ovo non-invasive technology, as Jenny already explained about rearing the males, but also the dual breeds. That was something that never fit in the strategy of Vencomatic Group, because in our opinion, it's not sustainable and it's not for the long term. So with the technology that we have enhanced now, together with Orbem, with the non-invasive MRI technology, we as Vencomatic Group dedicated on egg handling equipment with our Prince brand. We said we can work together and we can bring a product into the market where Orbem is specialized in the MRI, artificial intelligence, making the algorithms to do the analyzing of male, female, and clear eggs. Vencomatic Group will take the lead in all the automation. So the responsibility of transferring the eggs to the MRIs, through the MRIs, and back to the hatches. That's what we are now today. And what you see, especially in Europe, about the other solution with rearing the males, that came from legislation. So for example, in Germany, they started the law in 2022 that it was not allowed to kill any birds after day 7. That is where it started in the law. At that moment, there was no technology that could do that, not one in the world. Then they changed after a dedicated study, they changed their law to before day 13. And there a lot more solution providers came in place. Also with the Genus Focus from Orbem and Vencomatic Group, we could provide a solution. Before the day 13, that it was not allowed to do it after day 7, all those males were reared. And that was very expensive. It was more than €4, extra cost price, extra feed, and nobody could really use the meat because a layer chick is not developed genetically wise for producing meat. So we were happy that we could provide a solution that also fits in the ambitions and the goals of Vencomatic Group and Orbem together to the market to provide animal welfare and sustainable solutions. That is also what you see on, I think, the next slide, Jennifer, with the overview of the world.
Yeah, so as Johan just mentioned, in France, Germany, and in Italy, there is a legal ban on the male chick culling. And this ban came into place years ago already and kind of initiated the whole movement. However, once In-Ovo sexing was established in those countries, some of the surrounding countries and even the US started to think about using this technology as well. And it is in use by now. The reason for that is, I guess, two different parts. One is that legislation sometimes can introduce complications, sometimes introduced because legislators are not so deep into the operations of a hatchery and don't fully understand what is feasible and what's unfeasible. Great example, what Johan just provided, the day of sexing. In Germany, the law used to state the day 7 as the latest day of incubation when eggs have to be in over sex, but there's no technology that can work within that time frame. So one reason why companies are adopting in-ovo sexing is to be ahead of legislators, to make the step to a more ethical egg production without the legislative pressure. And then on the other hand, there's also something more behind it, which is a big market opportunity. What I said before, nobody wants to cull millions of male chicks every year. Also not consumers. Now, this use case of in-ovo sexing is something that is highly marketable to consumers. And what we want to show on this slide is that consumers can basically stop the culling of male chicks if they pay 1 cent more per egg that they buy in the supermarket. If you just follow the value chain in this chart on the left-hand side, you have the consumer that pays 1 additional cent per egg, 12 cents per dozen. And this value can be basically distributed across retailers who are putting the eggs marketed with in-ovo sexing and more ethical produced eggs to the consumers, between the retailer, the producers who are producing the eggs, and the hatcheries. Now, if we assume that a commercial laying hen produces around 400 eggs per hen, and we manage to achieve 1 additional cent per egg, that basically results in an additional €4 per commercial laying hen that can be distributed across these 3 players. Of course, the hatchery is the company who kind of has to go through the change process of changing the operations, making space for the equipment, operating the equipment, and so on. And for egg producers in retail, so to say, only the commercial aspects are changing, but the operations on producer and retail level are not affected by in-ovo sexing. On the very right-hand side, you have the in-ovo sexing providers. Most providers are offering in-ovo sexing as a service, which means the hatchery gets a total care package of in-ovo sexing. They have to operate the machines, and yeah, that's basically it. Here I brought a couple of examples to showcase how in-ovo sexing is marketed to consumers. You can see a couple of different labels that we see, for example, in Germany or in the US with the Hatch Check label. These are initiatives where retailers are trying to bring to the attention of consumers what the problem is, and they, well, you could say that they shine because they can show to their consumers we are doing something for more ethical egg production. Also worth noticing that it's not only specialty eggs and not only consumers from niche market segments. We also see here Lidl and Aldi, which are really in the commodity market, in the broad market of eggs. And to dive a little bit deeper into one of the labels, just recently, a couple of weeks ago, the United Egg Producers in the US have released a new standard that is auditing how in-ovo sexing is implemented in a hatchery and on producer level. It's called the Hatch Check. The certification process basically consists of an audit that the hatchery has to go through, and a couple of metrics that they have to report on a regular basis. For example, how many males are still hatching, so-called sexing errors, or how many in-ovo sex birds have been produced. And this is offering retailers also a program that they can trust, that hopefully consumers can also trust if it's marketed to them in the right way. Johan, it's you again.
Yeah, I will take this one. This is an overview about the In-Ovo sexing technologies into the market. And what I told you when Germany was the first country that put a legislation in place, at that point, more players were developing technologies related to In-Ovo sexing. But there is a difference, and I try to explain it in this overview that you have a clear view. What are the kind of solutions that are into the market? It's on one side, you see the egg. On the other side, you see the chick. And as everybody knows, the day chick, that is in between hatching from, of course, day 18 until day 21. That is the biological process that we generally see in all hatcheries and all genetics globally, worldwide. We have two big differences, and there is the day of sexing, but it is also if you go invasive or non-invasive. As you can see in the picture, you see the invasive technologies. So the invasive technologies are starting from analyzing on day 9 and day 10. So you see the players into the market that was In-Ovo, that was also a Dutch startup company who developed a technology, and you see the specifications under their name. So they had a capacity for one module, about 3,800 eggs in production. And you see also the time that they need to analyze the sex. Then you have the Respect technology. That's a part of HatchTech, the incubator company, and they have the product of Select, and they can analyze with the PCR test. So that's a different technology. All of those technologies are invasive. And then you have Plantech. Plantech was a joint venture with Select and a German company, and they can also go into the egg, take a food sample of it, and analyze it. Good to know is that also In-Ovo and also Plantech, those two companies are not active anymore into the market. There are no active installations anymore, and they are taking over to other players like Select and like at the other side to see Orbem and AAT. Orbem with the Genus Focus, together with Vencomatic Group, we have the product name Genus Focus, and we analyze with MRI, so magnetic resonance imaging, and we look inside the egg. We will tell you more about later. We can do brown, we can do white eggs, and we can do all kinds of genetics. There is no boundary in the genetic analyzing. And then you have, at the other side, you have AAT. AAT is a part of the EW group, and they have a hyperspectral technology, and with light, they look through the egg. They can only do brown because of the feather pen color, the difference in the color that you see that the pens are on day 13. You see that the pens are coming through the development, and then they can analyze it with picture analyze. These are the technologies, and also there is one player in France, that's Nectar. You see that also on the right side, and the technologies into the market. The three main key players into the market are respective Select, Genus Focus, Orbem, Vencomatic Group, and AAT with the product that they have, Chaggy. So you see difference in invasive, non-invasive. You see differences in the day of sexing, so from day 9 to day 13, and you see the difference in genetics, white, brown, and the eggshells. That is what is general available into the market. And of course, you hear more information in the market. If you search on the internet, more players are trying to develop products for In-Ovo vaccine or In-Ovo sexing. But at the moment, this is what is available into the market. On the next slide is a little bit more deep dive in the pain perception study. That was what I tried to tell you about what happened in Germany. So the government made a law. They put it in place in January 2022. It was not allowed to kill embryos after day 7. And then they saw they made a mistake in the legislation. There was no technology available. Later on, technologies came, what I explained to you one slide before. And then they said, we have to look to what is ethically our responsibility as a government to the world and to the citizens of course, of Germany. They asked the University of Munich to do a dedicated study on pain perception, because pain perception, that's the ethical part, and of course the animal welfare part. So they did a dedicated study on 6 factors like brain activity, nerve activity, vein activity, and all of those together are the elements for pain perception. The conclusion of that report, and it's a dedicated report, you can see it later in the slides if you receive them, and you can read the whole papers and the outcome, including the conclusion and how they did the trials and the tests. The outcome is there is no pain perception before day 13. So that's why Germany changed the law from January 2023, that it was not allowed to kill embryos after day 12 of incubation, so before day 13. Jenny, up to you. Market.
Okay, now what you can see here is a map of the European in-ovo sexing market. You can see in green the installations that we have with our Genus Focus solution. We started with 2 installations in France when the law came into place, Lancret and Hendrix Genetics in Brittany. Shortly after, we installed in Germany at Luhmann Deutschland. Then some other hatcheries in the Netherlands popped up. They're basically supplying the German market as well. Although what's really interesting right now is that also the Dutch market is saying we don't want to wait for legislation. We want to be a step ahead and start in-ovo sexing based on the rules and regulations that make sense for our market. We know the market best. We will set up a standard and everyone will follow it. So that's when Pluriton and Terherd joined. We then also installed at Hendrix Genetics in Germany. They opened a new hatchery over there. And Switzerland also had a really nice approach. They did a public RFQ where any in-ovo sexing technology, mature technologies, but also technologies in R&D phases could respond to, explain how the technology works, and they really did a thorough analysis of all available solutions and decided to choose one solution for both hatcheries. So Animalco and Prodavia are now both using our Genus Focus system. And in Norway, also Andreas Salte installed one of our modules. Also there's no regulation, but the market is moving towards in-ovo sexing because consumers are interested in more animal welfare and more ethically produced eggs. On the right-hand side, you can see a pie chart of the split between technologies in Europe today. You can see that the invasive technologies, Nectra, AAT, and Genus Focus are basically dominating the market. Also, what you saw on the list before, there's a spectrum of different technologies, but there's also a shift from invasive technologies more to non-invasive technologies because of the benefit you get from not damaging the eggshell. All right. And I think that brings us to the next agenda point, which is our solution. And before I say too much about it, we can start with a little boogie. Enjoy. Gotta hit the ground running, running just as fast as I can. Well, I know you say you're sorry and that you do right, but baby, do you take me for? Yes, I see you crying, but before those tears are drying, baby, I'm headed for that zone. Of course, when we tell people that we bring MRI systems into hatcheries, they don't believe it. I mean, you know MRI systems from the hospital. If you're lucky, you weren't in a scanner yourself, but maybe you know it from movies. It's a big instrument, and you need a lot of personnel to bring the patient to the scanner. You need an expensive radiologist to look at the image. Everyone knows it's really noisy, and you have to lay very still for a really long time, 45 minutes or so. So how on earth would you bring that to a hatchery and make it commercially feasible to an ovo-sex chicken eggs? Well, that's basically what Orbem does. We call it AI-powered MRI, AI standing for artificial intelligence, by combining a scanner, as you can see here on the left-hand side, a clinical scanner. Combining that with artificial intelligence, we can reduce the scan time from 45 minutes to a split second. The scanners that we're using are either from the healthcare industry or from preclinical MRI manufacturers. We justify them, we integrate them with a lot of automation. So the whole process from eggs being on the trolley coming out of the incubator to female eggs coming out being back in the trolley is completely automated. So by combining MRI with artificial intelligence and with modern automation technology, we basically convert a technology that's known to be slow, complicated, and very expensive to fast, simple, and accessible. This is what it looks like. You basically can't see the MRI scanner anymore, right? The scanner is located inside of the white box that you see in the center, and this room basically never has to be opened. MRIs are set up in a way that they don't have any moving parts, which means, and there's a tube going through it where the eggs are going through, which means it's kind of separated from the hatchery environment, and the hatchery operators don't need to enter this box. Everything around it is automation, and of course you can see that it's complicated technology, and that's why we decided to partner up with the Vencomatic Group. They are experts in that. They had the equipment building blocks already. They already have them, they use them, they have a lot of industry knowledge. They could share with us what kind of design decisions we have to make in order to really integrate MRI to an industrial setting like in a hatchery. Of course, you want to see what we can actually see with an MRI. Now that I'm not showing you the scanner itself, it's hidden behind a white box, I'm at least going to show you an MRI image of an egg. So what you can see here is an unincubated egg. We scan the eggs on day 11 and day 12 of incubation. By then, you already have an embryo inside of the egg, and our artificial intelligence can detect on this MRI image the reproductive organs of the embryos and can then automatically classify them into female, male. All of that happens, like I said, within a split second, which in the end results in a throughput of up to 24,000 eggs per hour. One scanner, or what we call one module, has a throughput of 3,000 eggs per hour, but you can have multiple scanners in a row, up to 8 times 3,000 ends up with 24,000 eggs per hour. The whole process is fully automated though, so no matter if you have 1, 2, or 8 scanners, the operator just brings the trolley from the incubator or from the setter to the machine. From that moment, the trolley is in the trolley destacker or unloader. Everything is automated until the female eggs are put back into trolleys, and then the operator just has to pick up the trolley with female eggs and return them to the setters. Again, it's completely contactless, it's free of contamination risks. Also, not to confuse, MRI doesn't emit any ionizing radiation. That's a different technology called X-ray or CT. MRI is really completely harmless.
And we have the modular design, so also what Jennifer was telling. Vencomatic Group, our part was to help Orbem, of course, to make a product. that is fitting into the hatchery. The main goal is always that we have technology solutions, but the goal is not to make it complex. The goal is not to make it fancy. And especially the goal is to unburden our hatchery specialist. It's a daily operation working in a hatchery. You're the specialist, and you know it's already a lot of work to plan everything and to have a smooth and dedicated operation. So the goal was that we can make a system that can be installed fast, but also can grow with the capacity of your hatchery. So you can start with 1, 2, or 3 modules, and you can easily extend an extra module. That's what you see in the picture. So the little bit blurred module, you can place it there, and you can extend your installation. So start with 3 and extend up to 8 modules. And that's how you can extend capacity, and you have more flexibility. Also, it's a complete modular and independent design. So every module, the inbound and the outbound, we designed it with the same parts. The goal was to reduce parts, also for maintenance and service. If you have an installation with Genus Focus, then Vencomatic Group will do with their local distributors the complete service. So we will come every month to do a checkup, we do the service, we have the spare parts in place, and it is a solution. If we install it, we are responsible that we maintain it very properly. Of course, you have all your technical teams. We train them to be dedicated on high level to do quick fix themselves. But in general, we do the service, we do preventive and predictive maintenance, and we try to make the systems simple. That is also what we have learned from the first installations that we commissioned in January 2023. 2 locations in France. We followed them up very closely with all the team members of the hatchery. So the managers, the planners, the technical team, the cleaning teams, the maintenance teams, harvest all the input from them. And then we created that we had a version 1, and within a year, we updated a version 2. And now also we are coming with a new release version 3. We try to listen very carefully to the input of the customers on cleaning, hygiene, way of working. And that is how the system can work easily with one operator. He can do the whole job himself, up to 8 modules. And that's also what you can see in the movie, and also can experience with our current customers in the market. Jenny, up to you, the dashboard.
All right, the dashboards. Something that's of course also really exciting is that through In-Ovo sexing, you're not only doing the job of separating out the males so they don't have to be culled, but you're also collecting a lot of data that before that you didn't have access to. The eggs are scanned on day 11 or day 12, and with those insights, you can detect loads of different things. One thing is, of course, the distribution between male and female, but more interestingly, I guess, is how many unviable eggs you have. And we have detected some really interesting trends where we could see that in certain setter trays, the rate of unviable eggs was significantly lower than in others. Sometimes we get flocks where we can detect that the fertilization rate was much lower than for other flocks, or than for the same flock a week ago. So all this data is being stored on these live dashboards, and the hatchery has access to them in real time. They can look up the performance per flock or per scan day and draw their conclusions from that data. As a last part for this section, I have another video for you that was taken at one of our installations in the Netherlands, because we think it's best to hear directly from our customers about the experience with In-Ovo sexing.
De Genus Focus is voor ons een stukje voorspelbaarheid eigenlijk in hoeveel eieren gaan erin en hoeveel female eggs komen eruit. En die voorspelbaarheid hebben wij nodig om te kunnen leveren wat klanten vragen. In vergelijking met andere systemen heeft Genus Focus enorme hoge mate van automatisering. Elk ei gaat door de ketting. En met 1 seconde is bekend wat er in het ei zit, zonder dat daar mensen tussen komen. Ja, je kunt met weinig mensen heel veel doen. Hoge snelheid, contactloos en weinig arbeidsbehoeften.
Nou, wat wij eigenlijk hier doen is eigenlijk een hal. Wij ontvangen de eieren van de vermeerderingsbedrijven. Die worden hier zeg maar, op voorbroedladers gezet door middel van een automatische overzetmachine. Als die eieren zijn overgezet, dan worden ze ontsmet. Na het ontsmetten worden ze zeg maar, bewaard in de bewaarruimte met de juiste temperatuur en luchtvochtigheid. En op het moment dat ze in de voorbroedmachine kunnen, dan kunnen wij ze hier in de voorbroedmachine zetten. Kunnen wij ze plaatsen tot het moment dat we de geslachtsbepaling doen. En die geslachtsbepaling, zoals bekend is, die moet voor de 13e dag plaatsvinden. En dat doen we dan ook op de 11e, 12e dag. En op het moment dat dat gebeurd is, als je 100 eieren hebt, gaan er ongeveer zeg maar, 60 eieren uit. Dat zijn de mannetjes, om zo maar te zeggen. Dat zijn de eieren die niet bevrucht zijn of die de machine eruit heeft gehaald. En dan hou je er een 40, 42 broedeieren hou je over. En die rijden we dan naar een broeierij toe, waar we het laatste stukje doen van het broedproces en laten uitkomen.
De dagelijkse operatie van het hele systeem van Genus Focus is eigenlijk heel eenvoudig. Eén man kan het werk doen, dus alles is er gebaseerd op dat het zo makkelijk mogelijk loopt. Alles is eenvoudig te bedienen.
Want 2 jaar geleden, de eerste keer dat ik op een beurs in de VIF hoorde dat er een MRI-techniek kwam. Toen liep ik met Kees Blankstein over de beurs en toen zei ik tegen Kees, als dat kan. Ja, maar zei hij, Christian, ik zie dat nog niet 1, 2, 3 gebeuren dat er de komende jaren al in bedrijf gesteld kan worden en dat we er ook echt praktisch mee kunnen gaan werken. Maar het blijkt dus dat het dus wel kan. En hier staan we.
Ja, wij zijn eigenlijk voor Genus Focus gegaan omwille van een aantal redenen. Een beetje een combinatie van niet invasief. Dat is voor ons een hele belangrijke keuze geweest. Daarnaast is het zo dat het moest voor wit en bruin zijn en het was opschaalbaar. Als je hier achter kijkt, wij zijn begonnen met de installatie van 2, 3 en nu hebben we 5 machines zometeen aan het draaien. En kunnen nog steeds dezelfde hoeveelheid broederijmedewerkers deze hoeveelheid broedeieren zeg maar, over de Genus Focus laten lopen.
Het meest trots ben ik dat we in korte tijd hier eigenlijk een complete broeierij, bijna complete broeierij hebben neergezet.
Ik ben het meest trots op dat we de eerste dag dat we hier gingen draaien, dat we eigenlijk letterlijk 2 klapstoelen voor de lijn hadden staan en dat het gewoon draaide. En als je dan kijkt naar de kuikens die uitkomen en je ziet dan dat er bakken bij zitten, stuk voor stuk, zo 4, 5 op elkaar, waarbij alle kuikens uit het ei gekomen zijn, dat is echt gaaf. Daar krijg je zoveel energie van, dan denk je wow, dit is gaaf.
I'm not sure about you, but I feel like I can speak a little bit of Dutch now. This brings us to our last point, the hatchery of the future. You saw it in the video, In-Ovo sexing and beyond. In-Ovo sexing opens the door to a new way of hatching layer chicks.
What can we bring as technology solutions to the hatchery? One of the things we are also working on, and actually Jennifer will explain a little bit more, is at the starting point of the hatchery. What could you do if you can already before starting with hatching, so starting before day 0 with fertility. And then into the whole process, you come on day 11 and 12, you do the In-Ovo sexing, you have only females, you bring the females back to the setters, and you go from 100 eggs to 40 eggs. You distract clears, you distract the males, and you only have females. So you hatch at the end only females, or one step before on day 18, when normally you do candling and you bring them to the hatches, you can do In-Ovo vaccination. And if you do In-Ovo vaccination, you can easily transport those eggs around the country and also over countries to do on-farm hatching. It is an idea, what is possible. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I think Jenny can also explain a little bit more what you see in the graph, which other solutions we maybe can bring in place now or in the near future.
Yeah, the two gray icons are what Johan is referring to. MRI is a really powerful sensor. We can look behind the eggshell without damaging the shell, and we can see what's going on. And there's two use cases that we're also working on. The first one is fertilization status detection, which basically means that we can look behind the eggshell before the eggs are being incubated, and we can detect whether an egg is fertilized or not. In other words, you can incubate only fertile eggs and thus hatch more chicks in your existing infrastructure. The other interesting application that we're working on is what we refer to as phenotyping, where you can really become creative. We're scanning the eggs on day 11 and day 12 already anyways. Now you tell us, what do you want to know about the egg besides this eggs? Is it the laying position of the embryo? Is it the volume of the liver? You name it. We have the images, we have the data, and we can automate the analytics of that data. Looking at time, I'm not going to spend more time on this. I'll rush to our very last slide, which is a big thank you to Jamesway for giving us the possibility to speak here today. Also, thank you to everyone else who is interested in this topic. At the bottom right, you can see a QR code that you can scan if you would like to stay informed about our product developments. We have a newsletter that comes once per month and provides an update on what we're up to. We have some really exciting news coming up soon. I think I've mentioned a couple of times that we just opened our office in the US, so there's some big news coming your way soon. And please, if you are a hatchery and you would like to understand how In-Ovo sexing may be implemented in your hatchery, reach out to us. If you're a producer and you want to understand how this whole certification process and labeling process works, feel free to reach out to us. And if you just have some questions, we are here to help.
Thank you.
Thank you much, both of you. Very, very interesting and very informative, for sure. Several questions. I mean, you can unshare your screen and give people a minute to look at that, but let's unshare your screen if we can. Several questions, and I think some of them you've talked about, or at least I've heard you talk about them at different places enough, but many people are asking, what's the accuracy rate? And do you have an estimated cost per egg?
Both great questions. Regarding the accuracy, we are working with artificial intelligence, which means our accuracy is getting better and better every day. So don't quote me on what I'm going to say now in a month. But right now, we assure our customers that there's less than 1% males in a hatch. And regarding the pricing topic, that's confidential information between us and our customers. And it's highly dependent on the volumes that are being processed per machine. So if you're a hatchery and you're interested in getting more information about the pricing, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to look at your numbers.
Okay. I know you mentioned in there, and just a couple of questions that I have on there, that you can do this with chickens, turkeys, ducks, whatever. So is there a difference in the day that we do the sexing for different, like ducks and turkeys that take longer to incubate? And what other modifications have to be done to do like turkeys or stuff?
Also a great question. So for in-Ovo sexing right now, we only work for chickens, so for layer and broiler eggs. We have not fine-tuned our algorithms yet to do ducks and turkeys, but we do hear the feedback from the market, and we know that there's a need to do that. There's potential efficiency increases if you separate males and females in those other aviary species. But yeah, so one thing we have to do in order to enable that is fine-tune our AI algorithms so they can detect the sex also in those eggs. We probably have to do some hardware changes as well. You know, just the size of the eggs is different, so the automation needs to be adjusted. And regarding the day of in-Ovo sexing, we really have to see at what day the egg is stable enough to take it out of the incubator so we can process it, and on what day the biomarker, the reproductive organs, are becoming visible.
So that's still in development. So it's something that will
Yes.
be able to be done, but right now it's still working on. And so
Absolutely.
as far as you do broilers and layers, I'm assuming this will work for GPs or GGPs, genetic companies, are at different levels. I don't see why it wouldn't, but are you working with any of them right now doing that? Or I know it might be a confidential question, I'm not sure, but
We've used those eggs in the past also for data model, so for retraining and fine-tuning of our AI algorithms. So we are sure that it does work. Right now, our installations are all in commercial layer hatcheries.
okay. And
think it's
like,
also
you
one
have
of
a
the
lot. Go ahead.
That's maybe also one of the strong things, Keith, that we as Vencomatic Group work very close with Orbem, but we look together to the market, which areas are focus points, and then we really are focused on make the product robust and also reliable for that sector. So a lot of opportunities, but we also said to each other, let's focus, make the product and the solution successful, and then look further to other developments. So that's also what we try, not to do everything at once and never make a solution ready. So step by step, that's I think that's a strong thing also in our collaboration.
So what, and this may be in something that your individual customers where it's located deals with themselves, but what is the plan that you do with the other sexed male, say in the layer operation, the sex males, how is it planned to dispose of the eggs?
So all male and unviable eggs are collected on a belt, and then they are fed to a system that is up to the customer. Most of our customers are placing a vacuum system, a macerator at the end of the line that takes care of male and unviable eggs. Now thinking about the future, and that requires a lot of adjustment and coordination of different stakeholders, but our dream scenario is that we can use viable male eggs for the production of vaccines. We think the impact could be huge, but there's a lot of regulatory challenges that need to be overcome. There's supply-demand challenges that need to be overcome, and like I said, there's many stakeholders involved. So if you are one of those stakeholders, reach out to us. We're interested to see how we can help to make it happen.
That is an interesting concept, though, of possibly using the off sex that you don't want in the vaccine. You know, I mean, logistically, there's a lot of things that a lot of moving parts that have to happen. But as you said that, I was like, okay, so that's something go. I mean, are you fairly established in the broiler market, or is it mainly primarily layer market right now?
So for in-Ovo sexing, we are in the layer market. And for we have some other products that are in the broiler market, and of course Vencomatic anyways, you name it, broilers, turkeys, ducks, all of them. For the broiler market, we have a new product that's called the Genus Scale, and not the Genus Focus, the Genus Scale, and that can detect the fertilization status before incubation. So we are entering the broiler market as well.
Okay. Several questions on the capacity of 24,000 eggs per hour. Is that said, or I believe when I was talking with Johan that, you know, always trying to speed things up, because that was a concern a couple people had. So one of our really big machines, you know, that might take numerous hours to get through all of them at that rate. You see a future in that of getting that process sped up much, or?
Absolutely, and of course that's our goal, always to make the machines faster and more accurate. Luckily, our customers don't have to choose between the two of them. It's always a bundle of more accurate and faster. I don't want to name a number right now because we're right now running a lot of experiments that will inform some strategic decisions. In which direction we want to go with acceleration, but there's for sure a lot of room to accelerate the machines even further.
Yeah.
And I think also need to know that the installations that you saw also in the movies and the big installations, those hatcheries are can easily manage flocks up to 300,000 females. So if you have farms with 300,000 females, they can deliver that mostly in 2 days, 2 times 150 or 200,000. That is possible with these installations to scan and also to deliver to the market. So the product is already ready to deliver big quantities of flocks.
And what age again is the Genus Focus working with?
11 and 12.
11 to 12.
Yeah. So the embryo development on day 11 and day 12, we can do the In-Ovo section.
Okay. Is there any issues with, poor egg pack, poor egg quality, exploders? I mean, do you see that much at that 11 to 12 day age? I know a lot of times when we see exploders, they're later in incubation. Have you seen much problem with that? What if we did? How would it affect it?
Yeah, we never see those bangers because you are before day 13, so on day 11 and 12, and also especially to layers, the bangers are later in the process because they need more heat production. So there are no issues, and also the whole system is designed that you can clean it with high pressure water jets. You can foam it with disinfection. You can completely clean the whole system around inside all the equipment. So it's also designed to completely clean it from every daily with water. And also in the system, high pressure jets are already installed so that you can also do automatically cleaning of the egg chain.
Okay. What another question is the advantages in the Orbem and the MRI and In-Ovo sexing over the hyperspectral imaging? What are the differences and advantages of yours over the other?
Hyperspectral imaging is limited to breeds where males and females have a different feather color. So
okay, so that's a feather color area thing.
Yeah, they only work for brown eggs. For colored and white eggs, MRI can see right through the eggshell.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Well, it's interesting. So that technology is basically one that we're already doing feather sexing once they hatch, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's interesting to know. See if we've got any other question. And again, I'll let y'all know is if you've asked a question here and we don't necessarily get it right here, we will be able to answer them at a later time so we can get more specific of what you want. Is the equipment that you all have, is it going to be available on a purchase option or a lease option for the customers you have it now?
We usually lease our equipment, so all the costs for installation, for maintenance, for servicing, and so on is bundled in one fee per egg or per female. That's been run through the machine.
Is the infertile eggs that you get, are they removed at the same time or is that a different process?
So all male, unfertile, and also inviable eggs are removed. We also noticed that the hatchability after In-Ovo sexing is higher than usual, which points us to the conclusion that we're also sorting out any eggs where there's some malfunctions in the embryo, like, I don't know, crossbeaks.
Yeah. Okay, so it can do some of that anomalies or something like that.
Exactly. They're all sorted out and they're removed together with the males.
And I'm sure y'all have done this, is look at the effects of having the eggs out for that period of time for sorting. Have you done a comparison with a control group that has not gone through that to see if there's any effect in hatchability or chick quality or anything?
Yeah, we've done these tests at the beginning because that was one of the main concerns. But on day 11 and day 12, it seems like the embryos are pretty stable, and we haven't seen any negative impact on hatchability. In some cases, the impact is rather positive.
Okay. So nothing.
Hatchability is up to 98%. So also we have seen and that was not a coincidence that we had. We see that several times back. High hatchabilities, high quality eggs. That's also what you see in the testimonials of the movie. That is what the hatchery see. The quality is very good of the embryos that hatch. The level is high, but also the quality of the chicks.
Okay. What about power consumption? Is that a big draw if somebody's going to put this in? Is there a lot of power requirements, so they're going to have to make modifications there?
That's one of the standard questions we get. Yes, I think someone is spreading the news that the Genus Focus is required.
Maybe it's the same person that asked you before. They'll come on here to ask again.
Yeah, MRI requires electricity and power, but so far this hasn't been a bottleneck with any of our customers. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you much. We've got a few other questions. Some of them are repetitive and some are a little bit more specific. So I think we'll stop there. Some of the ones we'll ask you to reply to some of these customers if we can. But thank you so much for this information. I was intrigued when I saw Johan give presentation on it, and then I was more intrigued when the audience ignored people like me and the other speakers, and every question was Johan. So kind of told me, okay, there's a lot of interest in this here. So we need to discuss it here. And thank you for coming in your time for sure. And thank you everybody else for joining us today for our webinar series. Check out all our other webinars on there. Again, you will get an email with a link to this so you can watch it later and share it with other people as well. So very good information. And thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody else for joining us as well. And with that, we'll tell you all to have a very good day.
Thank you.
Thanks for your opportunity. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.